There's going to come a time where you'll want to add music or voiceover to your animations, or maybe you'll need to compile your shots for review. This is where the Video Sequence Editor, or the VSE, comes into play. There's a lot of features to acquaint yourself with, and the VSE could take up an entire course of its own. What I'm going to show you is a beginner overview that will show you the most helpful tools in regard to what you'll need for your animations. Let's first show you how to open the editor, then we'll proceed to showing you around the interface. Now here we have our blank Blender scene here, and rather than splitting our views to get the ideal video environment, like going through here and going through all the editors, what we'll do is use the workspaces tabs that you can find right up here in the upper right. So if we hit this plus sign, go down to video editing, and use this video editing option here, it automatically splits up our screen for the kind of perfect video editing environment. We can also do this if we reset here and go to File, New, Video Editing. And that creates the environment for us again. Along the top, going from left to right, we have the File browser. And in the center, we have a Preview window. And to the right, we have a Properties window with the output properties selected by default. In the lower half is the Track Editor, along with its Properties window to the right. This is where we'll be importing all of our video and audio tracks for editing. Then just below that is the Timeline. It's here we'll be able to set some of our playback options, playing and stopping the video, and we have our start and end frame options over here to the right. Now there are a few things I want to highlight here with regard to our video sequence editors. And if you notice, these two windows here are the exact same type of editor. That's video sequence. And they have some subtypes up here. So up here we have a preview. If I were to bring this down and make it a sequencer, we'd have two sequencers on our screen. We'll set that back to preview. And likewise, if we go down and use sequencer and preview, we have now a split view of our preview and the sequencer. I prefer to work with the default settings just because it feels a bit cleaner to me to have some larger editors to work with. So we'll set that back to sequencer. Now, manipulating our editors is exactly the same as all the other editors we've been going through. We can pan and scrub through our timeline by clicking and dragging up here. We can likewise use shift and right click to scrub within the body of our editor. And we can zoom in and out by scroll wheeling up and down, or by holding control and middle mouse button. We can go up, down, left, and right, or we can zoom to the extents of our editor by hitting the home button. Likewise here we can zoom in and out, and we can pan around by middle mouse clicking. Another default from our sequencer worth noting is that notice how we are showing the time codes across our header here. We can change that back to frames if you prefer to work in frames by hitting Control T, or by going to View and going down to Use Timecode. For now, I kind of like working with frames, so let's go Control T and we'll move forward from here. There are a number of different ways we can import our video into the sequence editor. The first way is to use the browser window up here. We can go in and browse for our video. And drag it into the sequence editor. Now the second way we can bring in our video is by using this add menu here, or you can use Shift A within the main editor. And the three we're going to be looking at here is movie, sound, and image sequence. Let's first bring in a movie, and then we'll go over these other two in a little bit. So we'll go movie, and we'll bring this, add movie strip. And you can see it placed it where our playhead was. And if we put that next to it, we just have another copy of our video. The third way we can bring in a video is by simply using our file browser and clicking and dragging into Blender. You can see now put it where our playhead was, and we can bring it around, and now we have a third copy. Let's say you rendered your animation with a image sequence. We can do that as well by going to add, or we can do Shift A and add an image sequence. We will browse to our shot, and if we hit A to select all, and add image strip. What it does is it compiles all those images together to create our video. Now we need to bring the audio in to match it. So what we can do here is, again, Shift A, sound. We'll go to where our shot is stored or our audio is stored, and we can use the .wav file here. Now while editing, it can be helpful to see the waveform of our audio file. If we want to see that, we can click the audio and go over to our properties and click on display waveform. And here you can see that. You notice if I scrub the timeline, we don't hear any of the audio playback. We can have this by going down to our timeline here under the playback setting and hit scrubbing. And now when I scrub, you can hear our audio. Another helpful option here is to turn off that audio, because after a while, after hearing that audio, it can drive you a little nuts. So if we want to temporarily mute that, we can go here and turn off play audio. And now when we scrub, peace and quiet. Now there are a few parts to our video clips here. So if we select one, you notice there's the main area that we can click and drag and move around the whole clip. The other is, if we get to the edge here, we can see the icon changes a little bit. And if we click and drag that, we can trim our video clip. You'll notice if we go past the amount of video available, it turns a different color, almost darker. And that's indicating that there's no more video to be had. So what it's going to do is going to hold that last frame. Same can be done here. You notice it turns gray, and we'll hold our first frame. You can shift select tracks in order to move them around together. Another thing you may want to do, instead of trimming from the front or back of a clip, you can do what's called a cut. By placing your playhead where you want the cut and hitting the K key, now you have access to the middle of the clip and can rearrange the edit as you see fit. A common problem you're going to face is when we shift select these tracks, maybe instead of selecting the main area to move your tracks around, maybe you accidentally shift select the main on one and the edge on the other. And what this will do is, instead of fully moving both tracks, you'll be moving one and trimming the other. See how that's working? So just be sure when you're shift selecting the correct area and moving that around instead. Once you've finished editing, you're going to want to export it to your final format. To do that, we're going to make sure that we have our end frame selected. So we'll go to the last image that we have here and hit Control End. Then over here, we're going to set the file path for the finished video. So I'll hit the folder button here and pick a place to put it. We'll make sure it's set to the video format. Then for the encoding, we'll make it easy and set it to H.264 in MP4. Then we'll confirm the audio is set to AAC. And one final thing to check before outputting the animation is to go into our playback setting and confirm play audio is checked. Without this on, Blender will not add the audio to our video output. Now the final thing we want to look at is our post-processing. Now by default, compositor and sequencer is on. However, if this is turned off, notice what happens when we render our image. You'll see here that it rendered up a cube. Now that's because in our 3D space, we have our default cube and a default camera. Now if we go back and select our sequencer and hit render image, you'll see now it rendered what was in our sequencer. So always make sure this is checked. One final thing to make sure of is that in our playback, we have play audio. Otherwise, our audio will not be rendered with it. Now we'll select render and render the animation. Now, notice how much faster it renders using this VSE. This is because we don't have to recalculate all those materials, shaders, and lights in our scene. Now if we go to the render and view animation, there's our completed sequence ready to go.